Is it our shared biology, our capacity for empathy, or a selective choice and worth that determines our equality and compassion? Hello, my name is Wyatt Packer, and today I'm going to be walking you through Philip Dick's book, Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep? The topic I'm going to be covering today is what is considered human. So first we're going to go over the underlying theme of this book. Our character, Rick Deckard, is a bounty hunter for the Los Angeles Police Department. Now his job is essentially hunting replicants. Replicants are synthetic bioengineered, essentially human beings. These are some of the main points of the book that I wanted to cover. Humanity has evolved to create human replicants identical to that of a human. The reason they created these replicants was to be slaves and servants to humans. Humanity has almost entirely migrated to Mars due to the deterioration of Earth. And they needed these replicants to help with that migration. Rick Deckard is a bounty hunter, and he hunts these replicants for a living. Now, addressing the ethical problem. The ethical problem of this book is Rick deciding what makes it ethically okay for me to hunt and kill a replicant, essentially when they're so biologically similar to humans. Now, I want you to ask yourself some of these questions. What makes us human? What makes it ethically okay to kill animals or lower life forms? And what makes us empathetic? You see, these are all major points covered in the book to kind of help them figure out why do I think this is okay. Replicants are made synthetically, but are biologically almost the same as us. They actually have an increase in neurological and physical capabilities, which could argue that they are almost higher life forms than us. An important aspect of the book is the evolution of replicants gaining the ability of empathy. Replicants only have a lifespan of about 4 years, which allows it so they don't evolve, they don't develop free thinking, and they aren't able to reproduce. And kind of just the dilemma in depth here is essentially what are the attributes of humans that make us so we are empathetic to each other. One of the characters in the book, his name's Phil, he's a fellow bounty hunter from a neighboring department, and Rick runs into him and while hunting one of the replicants, and over the course of hunting this replicant, Rick kind of discovers that Phil is actually a replicant, and he doesn't know it. So they kind of go and walk through this, how he's able to tell, and once he finally tells him, he says, if I'm a replicant and I kill you right now, how does that not make us equals? And it kind of goes along with the idea of that if each of us have the similar powers to essentially take each other out, how would us not be equal? Or would it even matter because Rick would be dead? So I believe this is an interesting kind of ethical idea that isn't talked about a lot in the book, but I feel like it applies very much to our lives. We often feel that different races, different genders, ethnicities aren't as equal to us. And I kind of find it interesting is if we find ourselves not equal to somebody else and they come and overpower us, how does that not make them equal? Everyone has the power to do that to each other. So I thought that was a very interesting ethical idea that wasn't very pointed out in the book. And another thing that they kind of argue, the Tyrell Corporation, which is the corporation who makes these replicants, argues that because these replicants cannot reproduce, they cannot be considered morally or ethically equal to humans. So that is kind of the stance that they've taken in this book, is because they cannot reproduce, they cannot be treated equally. So now I want to go through some varying philosophies that I believe kind of pertain around the book, and also some that we've discussed in class. Utilitarianism, basically the reasoning that might argue that this isn't acceptable if the majority benefits, but it conflicts with the suffering and anatomy of replicants. Should the utility of the majority outweigh the rights of a few? Now, I've heard this argument a lot with kind of compromising the majority's kind of ideals for a minority, and I believe that this is kind of a valid point, is whether we should change our way of life to kind of go with the minority, or if we should basically only focus on the majority if we can't have both. And then deontology, from a deontological perspective, replicants' treatment could be condemned if they are rational beings deserving of inherent dignity. Now, I believe that this kind of portrays a lot because of how similar they are to humans. When you would come into contact with one, you would have no clue that they're a replicant. They're essentially biologically and emotionally the same as us. So I believe this follows a ton that someone you know, your best friend, could not be human, but knowing that, would that change how you treat them? And then virtue ethics, a virtuous person might argue that humanity's treatment of replicants reflects moral fallings as it disregards their potential for shared virtues like courage or loyalty. So I believe this is what it says, these replicants have the ability to feel empathy, to feel emotions, and by disregarding this, we kind of strip any empathy or moral fallings that we'd be able to give to them. And then this is just a quick comparison chart of kind of replicants and humans, each with different origin, empathy, lifespan, and like I said, physical and neurological abilities that replicants actually have an increase in those. So you can make the argument that humans could be the lower life form in this situation. And then lastly, I'm just going to give you kind of my personal take, my personal interpretation of this. I believe that the replicants should be treated as equal. They should be treated as human. Because at the end of the day, I essentially think that what they are is human. I believe what makes us human is simply the ability to feel empathy towards each other and to have kind of a self-conscious. I believe that that's what puts us above lower life forms or smaller life forms, is our ability to have free cognitive thinking and just an influx of varying emotions that give us more of a understanding of our own biology and physiology, and then of those around us. We are very social creatures, and I believe that social interaction puts us above other life forms and allows us to kind of create everything we've created today. So I believe that replicants should be treated as equal human beings because they are capable of the same things that we are capable of. And yeah, so that is why I believe they should be treated as human, and I hope it's kind of helped you understand kind of what makes us human, what different variables, what different varying kind of philosophies that make us who we are. Yeah, thank you.